Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I want to say hello to all of you and welcome you to the Confident Speaking community. And I am absolutely thrilled to have you here with us here today and grateful for your presence because I do not take it for granted because I know there are so many other things you could be doing with your time, but you choose to come and hang out with us as we all continue growing together. And here in the Confident Speaking community, our goal is for all of us to become more confident and effective communicators in any environment. No matter where you are, we want you to have the ability to walk into a room, to share what you have to offer, and believe in what it is that you have to offer and not be afraid, no matter who's in the room. And when you continue to show up, when you continue to participate and do the work that we're doing in this space, I can promise you that's going to happen. And you're going to look back a month from now, 3 weeks from now, a year from now, and realize that what you've put into this has given you the ability to truly transform your life in a way that you may not have imagined that it would transform before. So I thank you for making that commitment to yourself, not to me. While I appreciate you being here, this is about what you are able to gain from this. And that's the attitude and mindset that I want you to have. And many times, if we go into an environment where we feel like we're doing the person who's hosting or facilitating a favor, if you think you're doing me a favor, then you're going to miss the main point of what we're doing. And you won't get the value that's in store for you when you have that mindset that you're coming to gain, to develop yourself. And that's where the rubber hits the road, where you get involved. So, as we prepare for the conversation that we're going to have today, I just want to remind everyone, those of you that may not have spoken in a space before, those of you that may be uncomfortable speaking in front of people, this is an opportunity and an environment where you have the ability to come in here and practice and figure out how to work through the butterflies that you experience because we all get those butterflies from time to time. And no matter how long you've been teaching, speaking, or presenting, there will still be those moments where you have the butterflies. And we can't control when the butterflies happen. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's part of what we do here. And I want you to embrace these opportunities that we are trying to provide for you. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and say hello to Brenda and Mama B, and then we're going to jump into the conversation so we can leave more time for the engagement that we're going to have. How are you, Brenda?
I'm not bad. I woke up to a dirty microwave, but you know what? I came to my senses, I calmed down, and everything's good now. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mama B.
Absolutely. She came to her senses and calmed down. Calm down. Be calm, be calm, be calm. Because guess what happens when we don't choose to be calm? When we allow the franticness of those emotions to overwhelm us and take over, we lose sight of our ability to process what's necessary to actually move forward and thrive in those moments. So, great job, Brenda, for calming down. And I like the way you said came to your senses. Mama B, how are you today?
That was funny. That was funny. I woke up to a dirty microwave. Bloody microwave. What is it trying to do? The devil is a liar. Yes, I am fantastic, Tim Brown, and I'm glad to be here. And welcome to everyone in the space today. And please, thank you so much for sharing the space in the hallways and in your DMs to make sure that people know that we are here having Saturday communion in the confidence speaking space today. And when I read, I didn't even read this before, but when I read this just a few minutes now, I had to move from one room to the kitchen here so I can sit down. Because when I read, "Are you being true to you?" I was like, yes, I want to hear this. So I am here with my pen and pad and my little tablet and ready to dig in. Thank you, Tim. I'm done.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mama B. And you did not notice it before, probably because I didn't actually change the title until this morning, I believe it was. So it wasn't showing earlier this week. And part of the reason I don't always put the title is because I don't always know what the title is going to be in the beginning of the week. So that happens. But today we are discussing, are you being true to you? Are you being true to you? And it is very important that we embrace the idea of being true to you. And I often hear people say that they have to be true to themselves. But do we really know what that means? Do we know what being true to ourselves really means? And in order to be true to yourself, you have to know who you are. Who are you? That's the first question that has to be answered. Who are you? And if you don't understand who you are, it's very difficult to be true to that you. And think about the fact that, or consider this fact, who you are tends to be what people say about you. Who you are in many cases is what people say about you. Because for them, their interaction with you is a representative or a representation of you. So while you may say what you feel or who you think you are, but to them, you are what they see. You are what you do. So we have to always keep in mind that who you are is what people say about you. If you aren't in the room to explain yourself to someone, then you're at the mercy of the description that an individual who has met you in the past, what they choose to say about you. And that's who you become to those other people. So we have to know who we are, but also understand that those people who say things about you also includes you. So be very careful about what you choose to say about yourself. That has a tremendous impact on how true we are to ourselves, because we may say things to ourselves that diminish our value. We may say things to ourselves that diminish our ability to be confident in who we are and what it is that we have the ability to do. So keep in mind that who you are is who people say you are, is what people say about you. But also think about this. If you don't like what they say, you must change what you do. You have the ability to change what it is people are saying about you by your actions and your behaviors. And remember, as we talk about this often, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So always leave the impression that you want to be remembered for. And consider that your reputation is a reflection of your presentation. Your reputation is a reflection of your presentation. So, how are you presenting yourself to people? As we're thinking about being true to you, are you being true to yourself? And we have to have that in mind. Now, if you walk into a room and someone says, well, I know John, but who are you? Our initial response most often is, I'm Tim. I'm Tim from wherever you may be from. Yes, that's your name, but that isn't necessarily who you are. That's your label. That's what people call you. But who are you? And when you think about your name, because we've all been given a name, our name is the label that people will call us by, but understand that it goes beyond just what they call you. Your name is also your character. Your name is also your reputation, not just your title. Name also means character. What is your name? What are you known for? By what name, by what character are you known for? And you've heard the statement before that John has really made a name for himself. Mama B has really made a name for herself. Donika has made a name for herself. And that name is the character. That's the reputation of who you are and what people choose to say about you, whether you're present or not. And in order to be true to that, you have to understand that and who that is. And what I want to share with you today, I want to talk about some of the reasons people aren't true to themselves, some of the risks of not being true to yourself, the potential outcomes of not being true to yourself. And I also want to share a potential pathway to be true to you in all caps. The U is in all caps, YOU. And that isn't an acronym. I just all caps for you so that you understand that this is about me. You take your hand and you point your finger at yourself, how to be true to you. Potential reasons people aren't true to themselves. There's pressure to fit in with certain people, and it could be political groups, it could be religious groups, it could be professional associations. And when people, one, if they don't understand, well, I won't even say that. But people tend to not be true to themselves because there are certain groups that they want to be a part of. And that makes it difficult for them to embrace, accept, and present themselves based on who they really are inside, what their character is. So there's pressure to fit in to certain groups of people. And then there's family expectations. People have family members that look to them to do certain things, and there are certain behaviors and expectations they have of you. And if you aren't able to be true to yourself, you find yourself flexing and bending to every whim, every request, every need that's presented to you by your family. And they will have expectations no matter where you're from, no matter when you were born. There are going to be family members that have expectations of you, but you have to be true to yourself. And some people are not true to themselves because of these family expectations. Then there's childhood conditioning. A lot of us are affected by childhood conditioning, and it doesn't even have to be intentional conditioning. It's because there have been certain observations we've seen in other people. There have been things that have been said to us, things that we were told. And as children, we know that children can be mean and harsh at times. It isn't that they really want to, but that's unless they're taught, and their brains aren't really developed yet. They aren't fully developed. So they're still functioning a lot of times on that survival instinct. And they're trying to make sure that they get what they want. And that tends to lead them to be a little bit harsh at times. But assuming that we have to bend to what other people want in order to be accepted. And children do that a lot. They have their own ideas, and you'll see them. They want to do something differently, but because the other kids are doing it this way, they comply. But don't fool yourself. We still do that as adults. So that childhood conditioning follows us because we have observed certain behaviors, and we want that acceptance, which goes back to the first point of potential reasons people aren't true to themselves. That pressure to fit in with certain people. There's low self-esteem and doubt is another reason people aren't true to themselves. When we don't believe in ourselves enough, when we don't believe in the value that we have, we aren't willing to be true to who we are because there's doubt about who we are. And you have to believe in yourself in order to avoid that type of logic that causes you to not be true to yourself. And the last potential reason is that you're simply unaware of who you are. Most of us haven't really been taught to understand who we are, to look inside of ourselves, to figure out, well, I won't say most. There are many people, I'll say many people haven't been taught to look inside yourself, to understand, to figure out what is important to you, to decide who you want to be as a person, as an individual. And if you're unaware of who you are, then it's going to be very difficult to be true to who you are because you simply don't understand that aspect of yourself. And it happens a lot. And you can almost tell and be certain that it's someone who doesn't understand who they are in many cases when they are susceptible to every whim that comes along because they're trying to fit in with certain people, because of that low self-esteem and doubt that they carry about themselves. Now, some of the things that you can see as potential risks that can happen as a result of not being true to yourself. There's the loss of credibility. When you're not true to yourself, you tend to follow along with the things that you see other people doing. You do what you hear other people saying. And because you're trying to fit in so intently, it causes you to be a person that people are not able to see consistency because you change with the environment, you change with the people, and that makes it very difficult for someone to trust you. So you lose credibility when you're not being true to you. At least if I know that when I lend you $5, you aren't going to pay it back, that's something I know. but be consistent about those behaviors, and hopefully that isn't one of them, that you don't pay people back. But if you're going to smile and hug me when we're with one group of people, but you don't speak to me when we're with another group of people, that compromises your credibility, because I don't know what to expect from you. And it's going to be very difficult to trust you. And when we think about your reputation as a reflection of your presentation, that becomes really important when we are considering the potential loss of credibility when you're not being true to you. And then there's the potential for you being targeted by selfish and manipulative people, because these are people that will prey on those that they deem to be weak. They look for people that appear to be vulnerable. And if you don't have the ability to stand firm in who you are and know who you are, you become susceptible to the people who have selfish and manipulative motives. They will come looking for individuals like you, and you find yourself struggling, suffering, and dealing with all of this chaos that goes on because someone has put you in this, I don't even know if I would call it a tug of war, where they literally have just wrapped something around you and they're pulling you into their world and into their life, denying you the opportunity to enjoy and live the life that you were meant to live or even desire to live. The next risk, potential risk, is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance, in simple terms, says that you're fighting with yourself as you live a lie. That's a simple way to put it. There's a disconnect between your behaviors and your values inside. And let's look at it like this. If your friend tells you that you shouldn't treat me with respect because they don't like the way I look, and you go along with it, and you treat me with disrespect, not because you don't like the way I look, but because that's what your friend encouraged you to do. But in your heart, you know it's wrong. But because you aren't being true to yourself, you're doing it anyway. So there's this internal struggle that you're fighting with, trying to disrespect me, even though you know it isn't wrong, but there's pressure to fit in with that particular friend that you have on the other side of the table. So there's the cognitive dissonance that takes place inside, where you're fighting with yourself to live a lie. So be mindful of that. People pleasing is another potential risk of not being true to yourself. You find yourself overcompensating because you're trying to accommodate other people. And that can make it very difficult to be true to yourself when you get caught up being a people pleaser. And remember, we said that it's great. It's an excellent idea to please people. But when you're pleasing people, you're doing it out of love. And you're doing it because it's something that you desire in your heart. But when you're people pleasing, it's usually because there's fear or guilt in most cases when we are people pleasing. So be mindful of that. And the last potential risk that I will mention to you is the stress and fatigue that come along with not being true to yourself. Can you imagine constantly fighting with yourself internally? How stressful and draining that is? Can you imagine having to deal with the selfish and manipulative people that are constantly coming after you because they know how easily swayed you are to do things that, when they're influential, they can get what they want from you? Because inside, you know this isn't what you want to do. And we've all been there. When we see the phone number pop up on the screen and we're thinking, oh my goodness, what do they want this time? And then there's a struggle that's going on that you're fighting, trying to figure out how you're going to handle this phone call, and you don't even know what they want yet. But there's an assumption based on past behavior. And that stress and fatigue, because of the mental and physical gymnastics that you do, compromise your overall well-being. So we have to really keep that in mind. So these are some of the potential risks of not being true to yourself: loss of credibility, being targeted by selfish and manipulative people, the cognitive dissonance, people pleasing, and the stress and fatigue that can absolutely compromise your overall well-being. Now, here are some thoughts that can help you establish a path to be true to you. The first thing that I would encourage, and keep in mind, as always, anytime I share something with you, this doesn't mean that it's the only way, that you have to do it this way. These are considerations to have. These are based on experiences. They're based on research. They're based on what I have learned, what I have seen work in my life. So I give these as possibilities, and I look forward to hearing what some of you have experienced and what you may share as we conversate about it more in a moment. The potential path to being true to you. You first have to find a solid foundation of belief. Find a solid foundation of belief. And I encourage people because I know everyone doesn't have the same belief system. They don't have the same faith. They don't have the same standards. But you have to figure out what's going to be your solid foundation of belief. When a house is built, the first thing that they have to do, or one of the first things that gets constructed, is the foundation. And they have to make sure that the foundation is solid. Because if the foundation isn't solid, if it's built on sinking sand, if it's built on rocky ground that isn't level or smooth, that isn't prepared to be stable as you construct your system and your beliefs, it's going to get broken and it eventually will crash and fall. So the solid foundation of belief. And what this does is it helps you establish your values. It helps you establish your standards of behavior. And it should be consistent. And it also should be something that's easily accessible for you to tap into. For some people, it's their family as their foundation of belief. It's the traditions that they grew up with. For some people, they have read something from a book, and that became what they decided to use as their guiding light in their life, their foundation of belief. And I think by now, all of you know that for me, and maybe not if you're new to the space in the community, for me, it's God and the Bible. That's my foundation of belief because no matter what happens in my life, I know that I can always go to the Bible and find an answer to the question that I have, to the struggle that I may be going through in my life. So find what works for you. This isn't trying to convince you to believe what I believe, but I hope that you find something that you can go to, that when things get difficult, when someone begins to question your character and they make you feel as though, wait a minute, am I crazy here? You need to be able to go back to your foundational belief that reminds you of the value and the standards of behavior that you have so that you aren't easily shaken. Because if the foundation is solid, even when the wind blows, the house doesn't fall because it's built firmly on a solid foundation. And that's how you, in all caps, you have to be established with that solid foundation of belief. The next thing is to understand your needs. You need to understand what it is that you need mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And everyone has different needs. And I could give a list of all different types of things that people may need, but what's needed is going to be relevant to your life. What I need may not be what you need. So you have to understand what it is that you need in order to be comfortable being you. There are going to be different levels of needs that you have. But for me, just for instance, a few things that came to mind for me that I know I need. And all of these affect the way I present myself and the way that I interact with other people. Quiet time. I need quiet time. I have to have some time where there's no TV going on, there's nothing happening, I'm not talking to people, where I can just sit there and just stare at the wall sometimes, just look out the window and not force my brain to process anything. Quiet time, I need that. And there are some situations and relationships people won't allow you to have quiet time because for them, they want all of your attention. And you have to understand that when you're trying to be true to you, if you need quiet time, you have to have the ability and the understanding that you may have to ask someone to step back for a moment and give you a little bit of time because you need this for yourself. Clarity of expectations. That's something I need. I need to understand what's going on. What are we dealing with? What's the logical approach, or what's the logic in this situation? Because if I can't have clarity or have some sense of logic about my situation, my mind begins to, I won't say spin, but I'm constantly questioning. And I don't ever have that absolute comfort that what I'm doing is the right thing. There's always a question in the back of my mind. So that prevents me from giving my all, because I don't want to do too much and do it the wrong way. So having that clarity about expectations or what's required. Sleep. I got to have my sleep. And that's why for some people, I get invited to spaces. I don't do the late spaces because I'm trying to go to bed. I have to go to sleep. And I know the difference. If I get at least close to my 7 hours of sleep at night, there's a difference in the way that I feel. There's a difference in the way that your brain processes thoughts. There's a difference in the way that you react and respond to people if I don't get enough sleep. And it affects all of you, whether you realize it or not. And I say it's a need for me because some people say, man, I don't have to sleep. I can go off of 3 hours of sleep. I don't need sleep. And which isn't true, but their body has learned how to compensate for a lack of sleep. But we need sleep, and I need it. But serving others is part of something that I need. For me to feel fulfilled in who I am, I have to be serving in some capacity other people. Hence, doing this space. That's part of my service to people. But for some, it could be reassurance. It could be who knows what. But figure out what it is that you need, because you can't ask someone to meet or provide those needs for you if you first don't understand what they are. And you have to know what you need in order to be true to you. Understanding your limits. Now that you understand your needs, you have to understand the limits that you have. And people typically say, well, yes, I have my boundaries. But what does that mean? When you are understanding your limits, you have to identify what the limits are. And you can't just stop where the limits are. You need to understand what are the consequences of exceeding those limits, and what is the impact on your life if those limits are exceeded. You have to dig a little deeper than just the surface level discussions or the surface thought processes that we have about these boundaries and limits. You need to understand them, not just know what they are. And think about the speed limit on the road. If you're driving down a certain road and there's a certain speed limit and it says 55, for instance, there's a reason it's there. Speed limits are typically set based on the density of the population in that area. So the more people there are in that area close to that road, the lower the speed limit is. And it's there so that it minimizes the possibility of someone being hurt in those situations. But if you exceed the speed limit, what happens? You will probably get a ticket. You probably will get a ticket if you exceed the speed limit. Now, what's the impact on your life? And it varies for every person. The impact can be different for each individual. If you have a business that requires you to drive, if you're a truck driver, if you're a limousine driver, that ticket, that speeding ticket is going to affect you completely differently than it does the average person, because your license now could now be at risk. It could be in jeopardy. Your livelihood could be in jeopardy because you exceeded the limit that was set based on what was going on in that environment. So think about that from the perspective of your life. When someone exceeds the limit of your time, when someone exceeds the limit of your ability and capacity to give, they want to borrow some money and you know it's time to pay your rent. And they say, I'll pay you back in a week, and you have 2 weeks to pay your rent. What's your limit? Because if they don't pay you back and you've given them part of your rent, then how do you pay your rent? So the consequence is that you may get an eviction notice. And now you have to figure out where you're going to go. So keep these things in mind. Understand your limits as you think about being true to you, because you have to understand what this means for you and your life. And the next thing is to engage people who inspire the you in you. Engage people who inspire the you in you. And what that means is you come across some people that see something in you that you don't even see in yourself. And they remind you that, hey, you need to, I see this in you. And what you're doing right now, this isn't it. This isn't you. You have something special on the inside of you. And I do not want to see you blow it up or mess it up because you're doing something differently. And there are people out there like that. There can be mentors, coaches, the true friends that we may come across in life. And you won't find a lot of true friends in life. If you stop and think about it, anyone that's over 30, you realize that if you were to lift up both hands, when I say true friends, you can probably stop before you get to your 10th finger in terms of what true friends that you've really had. We've had good acquaintances. We've had people that we've shared some laughs and jokes with and fun times, but true friends is a special thing and it doesn't happen very often. So be mindful of that. But you need to engage with people who inspire the you in you. And you've probably seen it even on the movies. There could even be the drug dealer, the noble drug dealer that says, man, get away from here. This is not your life. I will not allow you to be a part of this life. To inspire the you in you. And we never know who this person may be. And we have to be attentive to what people are saying and how they're presenting themselves. So be mindful of that. Be mindful. Engage with people who inspire the you in you so that you can be nurtured, built up, and encouraged to maximize that. And the last one that I will share is remind yourself who you are. You have to remind yourself. Just like other people are going to have things to say about you, you have to say things about yourself. And you have to remind yourself who you are. When you're getting out of the bed in the morning, I'm wonderfully and beautifully made. Who are you? When you're looking in the mirror, remind yourself who you are. When you're confronted with the antagonism, the jealousy, the hate, and the ignorance that goes on in so many environments that we find ourselves in, you have to remind yourself who you are so that their behavior doesn't change your behavior. Lean on that solid foundation of belief that has established your values and your standards of behavior so that in the face of these people that may antagonize, be jealous, hate, or display ignorant behavior, you don't change who you are. Because remember, I said, if you don't like what they say, you must change what you do. So we can't allow other people to dictate our behavior. And when you know who you are, you're able to be true to you. But it begins with knowing who you are. So in order to figure out who you are, a potential path to be true to you and know who you are is to find a solid foundation of belief. Understand your needs. Understand your limits. Engage with people who inspire the you in you and remind yourself constantly who you are and whose you are. That is very important. And you have to be willing to stand alone as you go through this process. You have to be willing to stand alone because sometimes people just will not get it. And this means you have to discern and sometimes disregard those who don't mean you well. But I also want you to maintain a level of grace so that you give people a moment to be able to recognize, is this something they're doing intentionally? Because there are times people will demonstrate antagonism, jealousy, hate, and ignorance because they have been blinded and they need to come back to their senses so that they can realize that, you know what, this isn't what I should be doing. And it could become one of those true friends that you have in life at some point in time. So discern and disregard the ones who don't mean you well, but also have a level of grace to be able to recognize the difference. Because sometimes it's a moment that they had a lapse of judgment that they need someone to say, you know what, I hear what you're saying, I see what you're doing, but I don't believe that's who you really are. And you help them find themselves. You become that person who inspires them to be the them in them. So with that said, we'll go ahead and open it up for some conversation. And I want to remind everyone that everyone is welcome to speak, everyone is welcome to share. And what I want to do is I want to hear from you how you see yourself, who you feel like you are, and what your foundational belief is. How do you see yourself and who is it that you are, and how do you feel like you're being true to you as you go through life? And what we do, we practice our 4 Ps, our pitch, pace, power, and pause. That's a way to work on the vocal dynamics when we are speaking. And it makes you more mindful and more attentive to the way that you're speaking. And it makes it more interesting. We focus on our conciseness here. In order to do that, we have 2 minutes. And usually, and at the end of the 2 minutes, there's a chimer. Sounds like that. And the first chime means you have about 30 seconds left. And then the chime rings again when it's time to end. So make sure that once you hear the first chimer, begin wrapping up and summarizing your thoughts so that when the second chimer comes, you'll be ready to finish so that we can get to other people who want to speak. But this isn't just about cutting you off. This is about developing a skill that you can take with you, not just in this space, but wherever you go, because you won't always have a lot of time to say everything that you want to say. So using this timer and this chimer, it helps you practice and figure out how to refine your thoughts. Figure out maybe 1 or 2 points that you want to share that's most important out of the 5 or 6 that I know you have, and share those 2 and make sure that everyone understands those. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up. And I see Brenda has her hand up. Brenda, go ahead.
Yes, I didn't see any other hands up, so let me know. But I know I would go. I will kick this off by saying, you guys, I was not true to myself for many, many years. And it started, when I was young, I wanted to be married. So I was presenting myself to be married. I pretended to like things that I really didn't like so that I would meet a proper man. And it wasn't until I came to Spaces that I really started just saying, I'm going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it out there. I never graduated high school. I, just like airing out everything, because this is something that I would always keep a secret, When I work, I lied about my age, or excuse me, I lied about my education because, who's going to hire me? I didn't graduate high school, but I was hired and I maintained my job, and we had ongoing education. So I was kind of very blessed in that retrospect. But being true to who you are is so much more profound than we can possibly imagine. I mean, I don't think we're understanding how relaxed that is what these spaces have done for me. It has relaxed me in such a way that I can say, you know what? This is me. This is who I am.
And yes, Brenda, I can feel the peace that you exuded as you shared that. And it is different. And getting comfortable with understanding who you are and accepting who you are. Because remember, we may see this on different levels. There are different aspects of our lives that will affect who we decide who we are, or how we decide who we are. And Brenda, just being honest with yourself about your circumstances. That doesn't mean that you or anyone else is a bad person. It doesn't mean that we aren't capable. It just simply means that there may be opportunities for us to do something differently, but we have to own up to where we are and what it is that we're dealing with in those moments so that we can be true to ourselves. At the end of the day, if we are hiding something, is going to eventually be revealed, because what's done in the dark eventually comes to the light. So kudos to you for that, Brenda, for stepping up and, like you said, just putting that out there, sharing that, and walking in the growth, because that was, I love that comfort level that you displayed just now. It's so different from in the beginning. And you are showing that you are comfortable being you, being who Brenda is. Mama B, go ahead. I see your hand.
Oh, Brenda says that pretending to like things I did not like. Yes. It reminded me when, when you're younger and you go out on a date and you order a salad when you really want to order a steak. And, because you don't want to have to use your molars to be, is it molar, the side teeth to chew, because it's not going to be ladylike. You order a salad so you can chew with your front teeth, and just be a little demure. Oh my gosh. Thank God I'm older. Yes, that's what we put ourselves through. Yeah, trying to be this demure lady. Yeah, and you're hungry, but you wanted a steak. But anyway, so back to this topic, Tim, um, about knowing yourself, you know, because I'm thinking about values, right? We're talking about values here. Part of knowing yourself is to find out what your values are. And so I'm just throwing it out there that your the whole life experience piece of what shapes our values, that our values are shaped by and large by our life experiences. People say, oh, I like kindness, that's my value. I like kindness, for instance. And when you look back at your childhood, you realize that, yeah, I think maybe this is the reason I like kindness, is because I was bullied as a child. So those life experiences that sort of shape your values. And so I think part of going back to know who you are, so you can appreciate yourself and do all of this stuff that you mentioned here, a lot of nuggets of good stuff, is recognizing that some of those values that you have, that what makes you comes and must shaped by your life experiences, and embracing those life experiences, because those life experiences are woven into the fabric of who you are. Because I'm saying this because I struggled with this because of my childhood, and not understanding why I'm so passionate about how I react to certain things. And I've come to realize that actually that is not a flaw, that I need to change. It is just like a pilot light that I need, and that causes me, that makes up my voice in this world as I navigate myself. So that pilot light to ignite other little lights out here. I hope it makes sense. It was just a stream of consciousness there. Jim, I know you understand me. I'm done speaking.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I totally agree. Those life experiences we have, they definitely help shape us. Those life experiences come together to create the reactions and responses that we have when we face them at different points or later on in life. And it's just like animals. That's how animals learn. If they try to play with the wrong type of critter and that critter stings them, they realize that, hey, if this critter has a curved tail with a little pointy thing on the end, don't mess with that one, because when they sting, it hurts. They learn from experiences without using any words. But we get to use words to help shape some of our experiences, which in many times can be worse than the actual actions that take place, because the words tend to hurt more deeply. But yes, those experiences are so important, how they will shape our values. And I will add, when we think about the values that we have, because we tend to want to find people who share similar values with us. But keep in mind that even though someone may have the same values, it doesn't mean that they're going to implement their values the same way. If you're building a house, you typically are going to have the same tools, you're going to have the same materials, but the construction process may be a little bit differently. One builder may use a different color paint. One builder may use a different type of wood or a different type of hammer. So we have to be mindful that your process might not be exactly what mine is, and you recognize the difference. And when you know your limits, you know your needs and your limits, you're able to figure out if this is the type of person who will actually help inspire the you in those moments. So we can't assume that just because they say the same things we say and do some of the same things we do, that they have the same intentions or share the values on the level that we do. So be mindful of that. But excellent point, Mama B. Those lived experiences. So let's go now over to, we got Grace, Barbara, and then it was Lazolia, Human, Hoops, and then Dawn. And just a reminder for everyone, for those of you who may not have spoken in here before, because our goal is progress and not perfection, when someone comes up as a speaker, they don't actually have to speak. We provide the opportunity for people to just come up and get comfortable simply being a speaker, being in a position where you know everyone sees your picture, everyone sees your name, and that can be uncomfortable for some. So we don't call on anyone unless they raise their hand, because we provide the opportunity to just come up and see the word speaker under your name to be able to make one step closer to being that more confident and effective communicator. So I just wanted to point that out so everyone knows, so that if anyone comes up as a speaker, we don't call on you unless we see your hand. So let's go now over to Grace. Grace, how are you today?
I'm very grateful to be here because my internet connection, I had to move my RV and I wasn't sure. And boy, this is such a deep topic that I do have those butterflies. I do have those butterflies because this is really, really what it's all about, off and on X. And thank you, Tim, for picking such deep and powerful, and you just do everything with excellence. And that's why I recommend you more than any other space, really. And I just applaud you. And Brenda, you're the fruit of Tim's labors. When I met you not too long ago, you just have found your spot and you're shining. And Mama B, you make me smile, you make me laugh. We have a lot in common and we can agree on so much. And then we disagree on a lot of things, but that's what makes us grow, and having good mirrors around us. And everyone in here, we can learn from everyone. So please come up, even if you just say hello. If you can speak, this is a safe space to learn. So when you're out on other spaces and in public, you can learn to be yourself and understand why people react to you. And sometimes it's you and sometimes it's them. So don't take it personally. And then also take it personally, right? I like trying to have a format, but I also wanted to speak from my heart and speak first before I get even more nervous. So to me, it comes with a vision. Who do you want to be? And I had a very wise dad who got me reading the wisdom of walking with the wise, going to church and reading the Bible and having me memorize Psalm 1 and Proverbs 31. And those two chapters of the wisdom books, King David and his son, have really shaped my life and helped me have the best friends. I have the best friends all over the world. I have keys to houses all over the world. I get invited. I have an amazing life, but I have a lot of tears. And I have to remember who I am when someone misunderstands me, which happens often. But fortunately, I know who I am and whose I am, like Tim so wisely said. So having a vision, and reputation is what people say about you. And your character is who you are when nobody's looking. So that's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, you can sleep well if you know that you're true to yourself and your God. And at the end of your life, that's what it comes down to too. I've been at 2 deathbeds. So be blessed, and I hope you call me friend. I love you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you for that. And it's so helpful. It's so calming. It's so refreshing when you have that solid foundation of belief that you can lean on when things get difficult, when people say negative things, or when they question your character or question who you are. You know, you can always go back to your foundation. And I love sports examples. And if any one of you have ever watched sports and you see a team that's struggling, the coach will typically say to the team or to the press and the media, they'll say, we just have to get back to the basics. We have to get back to the basics, strip away all the fancy things and get back to the basics. And for us, as Grace said, there's a lot of joy, but then there's also a lot of tears that she has had to navigate. And that's part of it. That's part of being true to you. There will be times that it will be painful. It will be hard to be true to you because you want to try to accommodate something, but it violates who you are. It exceeds your limit. It doesn't provide what you need. And you have to develop that strength, that fortitude and resolve and the ability to be willing to say, no, this doesn't fit. But like I said, also maintain the discernment and have the grace to be willing to recognize if this is just a moment in time that can be forgiven and that it's something that may require a little insight, that you get to become that person that helps them or inspires them to be the you that you know is in them. So thank you for sharing that, Grace. So let's go now over to Barbara. How are you, Barbara? You're muted if you're speaking, Barbara.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Hey
you now.
guys.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was so weird because I can see that my mic is on. Maybe there was just a dead spot where I was driving. But yeah, I just wanted to say hi, Tim and Brenda and Mama B. I loved what Grace shared as well, but I popped in the room right when Mama B was having that incredible stream of consciousness. Oh my God, girl. Love what you had to share. And I would agree with you. It is through our lessons that we learn. Um, some of our greatest teachings happen through suffering. And so, it made me feel like we were going back to the Bible in that part where it says, all of the things that, there is a meaning by the lessons that we go through. And, oh my gosh, I just lost what I was going to say, but I just wanted to say I loved what she had to share. And yes, I was bullied as well, so I understand what you feel like. The part in the Bible where it says that the meek will
Inherit
receive.
the earth.
Yes,
Will
yes,
inherit the earth.
exactly. Yes, there is a lot of wisdom in that because I don't need to be accepted by men. I feel as though my true ultimate judgment is God in the end, and if I stay true to what his lessons are, that's really the goal. I'm not here to please everybody. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. My voice might be a little on the monotone side, and I'm not about comedy, and I don't know how to sing, but that doesn't mean I can't take lessons and learn. There's lots of things that I know I can't do right now, but the things that I was given is a heart of kindness to show, to others that have also suffered. We're all learning here. This is a huge school for us to learn how to be better humans. And with that, I will mic up and say thank you for the mic.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for that. And as I was listening to you, Barbara, it made me think to say to everyone, if you haven't yet, look up your name to see if you can find out what your name means if you don't already know. And that may be pretty interesting and enlightening or potentially inspiring for some of you if you find the meaning of your name. Because my name, Timothy, means one who loves God. And it is so fitting for who I am. If you happen to have a Bible and were to go and wanted to do this as an activity. If you were to go read the book of Timothy in the Bible, it's like a reflection of my life to a high degree of who I am. And that's why it's who I am is so important and my foundational belief, because it shapes the things that I do. It shapes the things that I say. Before I speak and say something to someone, I'm processing my foundational belief. I'm considering my values. I'm considering my standards of behavior before I say things or do things, because it's important understanding that your reputation is a reflection of your presentation. So I take great care with that. And everyone has to, we all have to do that, regardless of what your foundation is. But at the end of the day, we have to take great care of that. And Brenda, yes. And I love that that reflection, that you shared, and being able to see yourself in that type of moment. And what we're going to do too is we're going to save a moment so that Barbara can sing, because I believe she can sing. I think she's fooling us with that. So we're going to save time just for you, Barbara. So don't leave. So let's go now to Lazolia. Hi, Lazolia. How are you? Oh, wait a minute. Mama B had her put her hand up, and then we'll go to Lazolia.
Yeah, it'll just be quick. Yeah, Barbara, I heard, and my reactions are not working, and with Grace also, my reactions are really moody. So I'm hearing everything, and I'm just trying to react, but it's not. It refuses sometimes. It's moody once in a while. But anyway, I wanted to say to him, I love the idea of names and how to, the idea of finding out what our names mean. And then you said about Timothy meaning one who loves God. And I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow, sometimes it makes you wonder what came first. Our parents were prophetic when they prophesied this onto us, or they gave us names and then we just kind of lived up to those names. Just to say, my name is Mabatu. Mabatu is a South African name, and it means mother of many, or sociable one, or mother of people person. So yeah, I often wonder about that too, about, which came first. But names are really beautiful. I love how prophetic they can be. Thank you. I'm done.
Absolutely. They can be. And especially if you look up other people's names as well, those people that you find yourself struggling with, you look up their name and realize that, wait a minute, the definition of their name fits who they are. So why am I surprised by this behavior that I'm seeing? And unfortunately, some people's names do not mean beautiful things, but they can choose what people see, because we have the opportunity. I was trying to say option and opportunity at the same time. That's why it came out a little weird. But we have the option and opportunity to dictate what people see and make sure we help shape the things that they say based on our presentation. Because remember, your reputation is a reflection of your presentation. So let's go now to Lazolia. Hey, Lazolia.
Hello, Tim. How are you today?
Fantastic. I am doing fantastic.
Oh, that's excellent. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Mama B, and to all the speakers and all my people. This is such a beautiful topic, and I love it because in the last few years, I've learned that I have a very strong sense of self. I know who I am and what I want. My therapist even said that I have strong self-awareness, and because of that, I'm able to attract people who appreciate how true I am to myself. I used to have a PhD in people pleasing because, as you mentioned, Tim, there were consequences for speaking my mind and saying what it was that I wanted or needed from people. But one day I did some deep thinking and thought to myself, me being someone else is not serving me or the world. And like you, I also want to be of service to the world. And I can only do that when I'm true to myself. Honesty is one of my values, and because I am honest with myself, no matter how uncomfortable it is, I also have an expectation from the people that I choose to surround myself with to also be honest, and it has reaped a lot of benefits for which I'm very grateful for. And because I'm true to myself, I can communicate my needs clearly. And if someone doesn't understand them or they don't want to understand them and they make me feel like I'm too much for wanting what it is that I want or need, then I know that they're not for me because I have my people who have my respect. Even though they may not understand where I'm coming from in that moment, and they do tell me, at least I know they still have my back because at the end of the day, they want what's best for me, and that's for me to thrive and to thrive in me being me. So when I intentionally seek out people who encourage me to be me, it helps me to keep showing up as my best self because I don't need to be friends with the whole world. I just need to be friends with the right ones. And like you said, it's definitely less than 10. And I can thank Shari and Mama B because they kept saying I must come on stage. So here I am. Those are my good friends. So thank you so much for this space, Tim. It's such a beautiful topic to speak on.
Absolutely. And thank you, Lazolia. And, I love that you mentioned that you have to be able to know your needs. Well, that you know your needs so that you're able to communicate your needs. And it's so important that we can do that. And if you've ever found yourself in a relationship with someone or an interaction and someone is asking you for something and they don't have the ability to clearly communicate what they actually need, what is the outcome? What's the expectation? It can be scary, it can be frustrating, and it can be time consuming when you spin your wheels doing something and providing what they don't actually need. It isn't their expectation. So it's important that you know what you need. And I'm glad to hear that you understand that, Lazolia, which I'm not surprised though. I mean, you talk about not necessarily mindfulness, but just maximizing who you are. So that's what you do. So she's gone from a PhD in people pleasing to her PhD in helping people find their values and understand their values. And that's something that Lazolia does as well. So it makes perfect sense, but critical to understand your needs in order to communicate your needs to other people so that you make sure that you don't allow your limits to be exceeded in a manner that could be harmful to you or someone else. So let's go now over to Human, Hoops, Dawn, Olu, and then Ayomibo. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. Human, good to see you, sir. How are you?
Hey, shalom, brother Tim.
Shalom, shalom.
Honoring God and being honored by God is also part of your name. I know that you are loved of the Lord and that you love the Lord. Mama B, I didn't know that about your name. So it's good to learn your name today. That's beautiful. That you're a mother of many. You're a mother of the people. I love that. Love names. My name means benevolent. It's a Persian name. My middle name means Joshua. I didn't know what my first name meant. I always thought it was a name to just be teased. And because I grew up in America, and so it would be read without the space. Woman writer is my last name. I was miserable growing up in school with that name. Until you got to high school, then it was like, oh, woman writer, badge of honor. But when I actually found out its true meaning, benevolent, that was beautiful. And then I found out my middle name's Joshua, which means delivered. I thought I was named after the Jericho guy. I told my dad one day, did you name me after the Jericho guy? And Joshua in the Battle of Jericho. And he said, no, I wanted to name you Jesus, but my wife wouldn't let me. My mother wouldn't let him. And so he pulled a fast one and named me Joshua. So I'm named after the Lord. And then my last name is Ryder, like the trucks, and we're ever better and we deliver things. So I'm supposed to deliver the benevolent deliverer everywhere I go. Jesus died on the cross for the forgiveness of sins for the whole world. That's good news. That's really good. While he was up there, he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He said a lot of things. Go read it. There's a Bible that Brother Tim likes to read. You can go find it or message him. I'm sure he'll give you a link or an app or put you in touch with the resource. But these are the things that we can do to grow in being true to ourselves is adopt the true love that exists on this planet. And I found that when I stray from that, when I stray from the truth, the way, the life of the world, my life doesn't go right. But when I come back to love, when I come back to being a father or a mother of all, when I come back to honoring others and being someone worthy of honor by my conduct, I'm able to be true. I'm able to be true. I have like 7 or 8 things that I wanted to share, but I know that there's a time, so I won't share those at this time. Just keep in the book, keep looking into the mirror, and you'll do well. I love you all. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you, Human. And yet we have another example of someone that, after looking up their name, it's in alignment with who they are. It's a representation of their character. And it's amazing how often it lines up with people and their behaviors with the way the names are defined. But I think that I would just say it lines up. As I've observed the things that you do, Human, the things that you do in the spaces, the communities, and the way you try to give and serve, it's exactly who you are. And I know my mother told me that it was my dad's decision to name me Timothy. And she actually said that he was adamant about it. And I asked him about it. He didn't really remember it, but she said he was adamant about naming me Timothy. And sometimes those things happen and we feel it in our heart and we know it's supposed to be a certain way and we don't always understand why, but we follow our heart. And most times when you do, things tend to work out well. And that foundation is just so important because I too, Human, have had those moments where I literally tested that foundation of belief that I currently have. I've tested in the past to see that if I did things differently, what the result would be. And for me personally, I saw a difference in my life that made me say, "Oh, you know what? I need to get back to this because this works. This is working in my life. So I am not going to do this anymore because it works for me." So thank you for sharing that, Human. And I appreciate you demonstrating that, hey, which I know everyone has a lot of things that they can share, but you decided that you shared the ones that were most important in that moment. So thank you. So
I did a Mama B stream of consciousness, and you're welcome.
there we go. So let's go now over to Hoops. Hoops, how are you, sir? Great to see you.
Awesome, man. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever everybody is hailing from. Peace be unto you all. It's a festive season coming up for a lot of folks, so I hope you're all moving into that with power and light, love, and affection from family and friends. I appreciate you, Tim, for the room, everybody that's here. Interesting topic. I've had to deal with this quite a bit in my life and growing up because of what some of the things that I've achieved in life and going back into the environment that I was naissance, that I was born in, and being an intimidating force without even knowing it, without even wanting to be, just want to return and connect. People get intimidated, and at that when things like this happen, when the peripheral around you is intimidated by you without you even deserving that, putting that energy out into the atmosphere, we have to be careful. We have to be careful how we skew ourselves, to accommodate those people. And a lot of us athletes who have, grown out of our communities because of sports and moved to another level of, a different tax bracket or, different socioeconomical standings, you go back to your neighborhood, and that can be an intimidating factor where, it could even create not just animosity, but violence towards you. So when we're in that type of situation, we have to be careful not to compromise the self, but protect it. And this is one of the things I speak to my athletes about, because I work with a lot of athletes who are in that position, just like I was, growing up in a country like Jamaica, getting a scholarship to go to the university, and then going back home into that ghetto garrison environment, and then you're attracting the wrong element because of jealousy, and then now what do? Do I taper myself? Do I hide? I'm 6'9". It's tough to hide. Right? And even that alone, even my size alone is intimidating to men, because when I'm in a room, and I'm standing close to someone that might be 5'8" tall, that's a little hurt on your neck. I'm always careful to create a certain distance so that the perspective, the trajectory is favorable for the person looking up at me. These are the things that I'm conscious about, because, you can probably intimidate a decision maker in the room, and the decision goes against you. So I have fun with it, basically. But, a lot of people might be in that position because of, coming from one section of society and occupying another. But I think you guys got the gist of what I'm saying. The main thing is to protect the self, and I think I've done a pretty good job of fortifying myself, even when I have to, step back or move aside or give someone way so that their ego doesn't get bruised, and which might result in something that could, impact me negatively. Anyway, appreciate the room. Great room as always. Appreciate you, Tim. Mama B, Brenda, love you. See you all around. See you around, and hear you all the time. And a lot of admiration, Mama B, you as well. Hey, Tim, big ups to you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And we never know what people are dealing with, what is going through an individual's mind in any given situation. Being 6'9", to have to be mindful, or not that he has to, but even taking time to consider. I'm not sure why 5'8" was the number that he chose. Well, I'm 5'10", so I guess it's okay. But it's a reality of our interactions. And when we think about the idea of being confident and effective communicators, those are details that can impact people and the way that we're able to connect. If someone is self-conscious about their height, and for Hoops to roll up on them at 6'9", and they have to look up to him, and then they're thinking about who knows what, how someone may have made them feel in the past, it can change dynamics of an interaction. But all of that to just say how everyone has a different experience. We all have different things to consider. And this is why, as I was talking about needs, that I didn't want to put anything too specific in your mind, because we all have different needs that we have to address. We all have different limits that we need to understand and address for our own circumstances. And I don't have to worry about someone looking up to me. I guess I'm a little bit taller than my wife. And I do notice, she makes me feel tall sometimes when I walk up to her in the kitchen and I see her looking up to me. So I was like, okay. I'm not as short as some people may have said, but I'm not 6'9", and it's not that type of angle. But the details matter. Paying attention and being comfortable with who you are, because that's a real thing. When you leave your neighborhood and you've attained a level of success and you come back and people see you differently. And as I mentioned earlier, that jealousy, that antagonism, the hate, and the ignorance that comes along because they made different decisions than you did. And now they feel as though you should still be a part of what they do and not try to excel or stay on that path of doing better. And kudos to you for teaching the other athletes, Hoops, to not dumb down, as they say. And I hate that for students, especially young people who want to fit in the classroom, and they aren't willing to be true to themselves when they're brilliant minds. And instead of being a brilliant mind, they'll fail a test because they don't want their friends to feel bad, or who they consider or think are their friends. They're willing to fail a test. So we have to really lock in on this idea of being true to ourselves, but we also have to know who we are. You have to know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you can't be true to someone that you don't know. So it's just really important that we do that. So Hoops, thank you for that, sir. I appreciate you. And I want to thank everyone that may have recently joined the space. We are discussing the idea or responding to the question, are you being true to you? And as we've discussed, we've identified the fact that you must first know who you are before you have the ability to be true to you. And if you don't know who you are, then you can't be true. And that opens the door for you to get kind of tossed around, pulled different ways, and it makes it difficult for you to maximize what it is that you have to offer to yourself and to the world. So that's what we're discussing, and some people are sharing some experiences that pertain to them being true to themselves, some of the pain, some of the difficult experiences that may have come along in life. As Mama B said, those experiences matter. And some of them are uncomfortable when you're trying to be true to yourself. But you have to be willing to do that, because it's much better to endure that moment of discomfort than to allow it drag out and become a potential lifetime of pain and misery, because you weren't willing to be true to yourself in a moment in time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go to Brenda. I saw your hand, Brenda.
Yes, my hand went up to compliment Hoops. Hoops, I walked to the refrigerator and back, so I've done my exercises. And this man is really tall, you guys. You need to go to his page and see how tall he is. And also, I really enjoyed hearing a little bit of his life. So if you ever catch him on stage, do drop in and hear about, I would think, just a little tiny piece of his life. So, and then Tim, what you said toward the end, just to bring it back. Yes, I lived many years miserable. I would say trying to keep up with the Jones. Yeah.
That's very difficult to do, especially when you don't know how the Joneses got what they have. You don't even know if it's theirs. You don't know if they're going to be able to keep it. And I remember our pastor said one day, he said it as a joke, but it was a real moment, and how some people will bend over backwards to try to get that Mercedes Benz, only to find themselves saying, mercy, these payments for this Benz are killing me. So what people have should not become the goal that we want to achieve or attain simply because they have it and we don't, because you don't know their circumstance. Be true to you. Do you even need that? Do you even care about that Benz? Because at the end of the day, if you go and buy that 50, 60, 70, whatever $1,000 car, once you've driven it for a couple weeks, you realize that, you know what? Yeah, this is nice, but it doesn't really add much value to my life. And now you're stuck with these payments. God knows how much you're paying, depending on your credit. Your life could be so much different if you had focused on who you are and identify your needs. But I don't need the big, super fancy car like that. I want some amenities. I'm not going to say I don't want some amenities, because I do, but I don't have to have $80,000 worth of amenities in my car. That just means it's something extra that's going to have to break. And that's where thinking about my limits as well, all of those things come into play, being true to you, where we aren't trying to impress people with the things that we do or how we spend our money. So all of those come into play, understanding your needs mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. and it matters. It makes a difference. Go ahead, Mama B.
Yes, Tim Brown. You know, I always say that if your decision to buy something or to, if your decision, especially when it comes to consumerism and materialism, if your decision has my face in it, if your decision has my face in it, then chances are that decision is wrong. If you're gonna go buy that BMW because you want to see Mama B's face when they see it, chances are it's motivated by the wrong thing. And so with Christmas coming, I'm just reminded to really make sure that the money that I spend on people is not because of their faces when they open that gift, because they might open it and not even give me the face that I expect to them to give me, especially the kids, after a few hours after they open the gifts, they're playing with the box, the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 3-year-old. They're playing with the box. And my son reminded me lately and said, when I'm married, Christmas time, Mrs. and I are the only ones who are going to exchange presents because the kids will get the boxes. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? You said, no, they don't remember. We don't remember our lives before we were 3. That's just how development is. And I said, you mean you don't remember all the stuff that I did for you when you were 1 and 2? He said, no, Mom, I don't remember. I'm sorry to disappoint you. So I'm going to be mindful this Christmas to make sure that the decisions that I make don't have Tim's face in them, or Brenda's face, or whoever else is. Thank you. I'm done.
I love that. Make sure your decisions don't have someone else's face in them. And you know what? Your son he's so right. And I often question and wonder, how sometimes parents, they do a lot for these 1-year-old birthday parties or 2-year-old birthday parties. But I get it. They're memories. So you can take pictures and you can videotape it. But I don't know about like $500 for a party for a 1-year-old, because they probably don't remember that. But it's funny that he said the kids will get the boxes because that's what they play with. Yeah, they really don't care about the toy. They're just gonna beat it on the floor and put holes in your hardwood or break your tile. So give them the boxes. Tell them I like that idea. So thank you, Mama B, for sharing that. So let's go now over to, I think Dawn had to go. So we'll go to Olu, then Ayomibo, Jade, Daynash, and then Human. And before we go to Olu, I want to say to everyone at the top, we have a little poll up there. And this poll is, and I did it a little differently. It's the 2 truths and a lie. But I did it as a poll that's right here on the platform. I'm experimenting again. And what this poll is to see if you can guess which of the 3 statements is not true about Billo. And Billo was able to jump into space. And towards the end, we're going to have Billo tell us which one is not true. So at the top of the space, it's pinned at the top. You can take a look at that poll and make your guess and share what it is you think the non-truth is about Billo. So with that, we'll go ahead and go over to Olu. How are you, sir? Great to see you. Happy belated birthday, too.
Oh, thank you so much, my brother. And you as well. I hope you had a great day. Hi, everyone. Hello, my people. Always glad to be here with you. And everyone, welcome to a brand new weekend where God has made fresh measure of mercy and grace available for us. Enjoy it. Team, congratulations. You just created, a brand new word. Even though you thought it's a mistake, but I'm taking it as a brand new word and I'm going to add it to my vocabulary. It's called opportunity. It's a combination of option and opportunity. It's called opportunity. Credit goes to you, Tim. I'm going to quickly summarize all the things that I've learned from what you said and what you shared. And by the way, I'm putting everything together into a video made with AI, which I will post on X in a few minutes once we're done, to encapsulate how wonderful what you've shared with. I hope it blesses everybody. My summary goes as this. One, self-reflection. And that's it. Comes to being self-aware, authenticity in actions, setting boundaries, ignore external validation because you are who you say you are. Express yourself, accept imperfection, grow continuously, and be in community. I will always emphasize being in community because even as you're true to yourself, like Tim said, sometimes you need somebody to help to remind you that, hey, you're beginning to go off tangent of who you are. And you can only get that blessing when you're in a community. I made that dangerous decision to be true to myself recently. I'm still praying to God to show up as a fourth man in the fire for me because I'm in trepidation. But I came to a point where I knew that I would either be true to me and not betray who I am or just continue to play along. I decided not to betray myself because I recognized that being true to myself is not a one-time achievement, but a lifetime journey. And that journey starts with every decision that I make. Thank you all.
Being true to yourself is not a one-time decision, but a lifetime journey. It absolutely is, Olu. And we have to keep that in mind because sometimes we pat ourselves on the back because we accomplished something one time. And it's like, ooh, I did that. And then we forget that we have to keep doing that. We have to keep learning. We have to keep growing. We have to keep striving to maintain our foundational beliefs. It's a lifetime journey. And ignore the external validation, as Olu said, and absolutely have to do that because the external validation, we don't know how genuine it is sometimes anyway. There are people who will try to set us up and they will tell us that we're better than we really are. And I'm sure some of you have seen some people singing in talent shows because their parents said, "Oh, baby, you can sing so good." And they should not have been in the building. So just be aware of the external validation that it isn't always genuine and it may not always be true. So find within yourself what it is that you need and who you're supposed to be. But at the same time, community is important because there are those people like here that will encourage you, that will be honest with you about the things they see that we can't. Because we all have blind spots. We all have opportunity where someone can say, "Hey, I noticed something that you did or said, and you may not have meant it this way, but this is the way it came across." And now there's an opportunity to do it differently. And we do need that. We need people in our lives that care enough about us where we don't get upset because someone may be questioning or we feel as though they're challenging something that we did. But when they do it in love and we take the time to understand that it actually works for our benefit, it works out well. And you begin to look for those people. We need those types of people in our lives because I will ask questions and I'm open for people to give me feedback. Because I host a space doesn't mean that I don't feel like I need feedback from time to time. And I'm always open to grow and get better. And you never know, because I've had a person who lived on the street say something to me, and I felt I clearly heard God's voice as he spoke. And he had nowhere to go when he left that spot. He was living on the street because I'm willing to listen to whomever to see what it is that I may need to learn in any given particular moment. So thank you for that, Olu. So let's go now over to Ayomibo. Ayomibo. How do you
Yeah.
pronounce your name? And I should have just stopped.
All right. Hello everyone. So it's pronounced Ayomibo. It's Ayomibo.
Ayomibo.
yeah, I see that you've been struggling with it every time, and I'm like, I just need to tell you, like, it's you're getting this correctly most of the time, and yeah, it's eye opening, but you got it correctly. So, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. I don't know the time it is at your end, but good day, everyone. So, I requested the mic based on how, like, when I came into the space here, I'm not a speaker person. I always just like to be in the listener part. But as Mr. Tim kept saying, you can request the mic and just stay as a speaker here. And I was like, okay, last year I did some kind of retrospective self reflection. I do it most times December period, and I always like to know, okay, what did I do? How did I perform this year? How did I build some things around myself this year? What did I do? So as a last year, I figured, okay, I think I always fidget when I'm out there. Like I'm not always confident when people are around, or I always just like let people take the shine. I'll be at the corner and I don't talk, like I don't speak. So I made this like kind of thing to myself that okay, the 2024, I'll work on myself, and I try to look at okay, what can I do to build myself? How can I be able to be confident when I'm speaking out there? So I said okay, I'll be joining Twitter Spaces, and I'll be requesting the mic, and I felt that was a very good solution. That I think if I'm talking among people, like people from different places, and people agree to I was not even about people agreeing to what I say. I just I just feel when I talk out like in spaces, I will get this naive, and maybe I started doing this and it was working, but I don't know, at some point this year, I think maybe around March, or I just felt I'm getting out of the old thing I said for myself, because I know around January, February, I started speaking to people in the bus. When I kept making friends, and I was out there, but I started missing everything, and I really don't know how to just put myself back up. And now again I'm back to December, and I'm like, how can I do this again? But when I came into this space, the sound of your voice, everyone was talking, I was like, yeah, I like this matured minds here. Like maybe if I request this PM the mic and I say something, maybe this should be the beginning of another change here. And I really like the way I'm sounding right now. Like it's doing some magic in me. So thank you very much for the space. I really appreciate it, and I really love the topic, confidence speaking. It's I think it's a blessing to me and to everyone that shared something. And I also want to thank Mr. Olukoya. I think the last person that spoke, like most of the things he said were just going to me, like it was just like these are the things I need to put in line here, and I'm going to do just that. I think the joining the community thing is a nice thing for me to do. So I will do just that. But thank you very much, everyone. I really love it. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you being here and making progress, because as I said, and we say very often, is that it's about progress and not perfection. As long as you're taking steps to move forward, you're moving forward, and you're going to get better, and it will get easier as you go along. And always remember that, and this is for everyone and all of us, that growth takes time. We have something in mind we want to accomplish, especially if it's learning or doing something new. It takes time. It's a process. And every attempt won't work. But if we stick with it, eventually we get where we're trying to go. And I commend you for being so intentional about what you're doing, that you're doing the self reflection to understand where you are. And it's important we do that. We have to self reflect to figure out where it is we are, where can we improve based on our standards. And this is why for me, like my foundation of belief being the Bible, because I can always read the Bible, and if I'm reading something, it hits me inside. If I'm not behaving based on what I'm reading, and it's like, ooh, okay, I've got to make some adjustments. And I don't have to hear from anyone externally. because this is a reminder to me in my heart that says you got to make some adjustments, because this, what you're seeing in this mirror, is not a reflection of what you're presenting. So keep that in mind. Do some self-reflection to understand. And I think Olu wants to respond to Ayo Mibo. And I'll say this really quickly before Olu responds. And you see how I said one of my needs was having that clarity. And you notice how I just kept trying to pronounce his name because I wanted to say it correctly. I could have just waited, but I was still making the effort because my mind was trying to find that confirmation and that clarity so that I could move forward in comfort, knowing that I was doing it the right way. Because I don't want to offend people by mispronouncing their name, because your name is important and I want to respect that. So just an example how these things affect us, and you can see how it can affect your behavior and change the way you do things if you don't get the things that you need. But Olu, go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to quickly encourage Ayomibo to come back and again, especially to confident speaking, because I guarantee you it will help you. I feel personally drawn to him because I can tell that he's Nigerian, and maybe you guys can't tell, but his name is similar to mine, and the same Ayo that he has in his name is inside my name as well. That's why my name means Olukayade. His name is Ayomibo, which means my joy has come. I just wanted to encourage him. Thank you.
My joy has come. Wow. So Ayu Maibo? Ayu Maibo? Ayu Mibo. Just
Ayomibo.
yes,
It's
Ayu
Ayomibo.
Mibo.
Ayo.
And see, I have it written down and I wasn't looking at it. So I put the accent marks so that I know that it's a long I and the O. But your joy is coming. So keep that in mind as you find yourself navigating life, navigating relationships. Stand tall and stay true to who you are, and keep doing the things that you know you need to be doing to get where you're trying to go. There will be times that some of the people closest to you, they won't understand where you're headed. They won't appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, but you have to be committed enough to you that it doesn't matter what they think or what they have to say, especially when they aren't providing resources or supporting what you're trying to do. Most people who have those thoughts and that feedback, they don't have anything to bring to the table to actually help you. So why do we care about what they think, especially in those scenarios? So thank you for being here and keep doing what you're doing, sir. And keep coming back, because we will definitely be here to encourage you and be that community that will say, hey, great job. And we're willing to give you that guidance that say, hey, maybe you could try this approach. You could potentially do it a different way, because that's what caring and really supporting someone is about. That's part of it. It's not just saying, good job, good job, good job. Sometimes we may need to say, you know what, maybe do it this way. That one doesn't work quite as well. So let's go now over to Jade. Jade, how are you today? Great to see you.
Hello, everybody. It's great to see y'all. How y'all doing? I just wanted to say this is such a beautiful topic, because going into the end of the year and being in such a cycle where you're changing as a person or becoming anew, it's important, if when you're being true to yourself, to learn your values, learn your boundaries, learn your standards, because if you don't know those things, you'll let the whole entire world mold you and put you into a box or put you into a corner. So I think it's important, in order for like a person to be true to themselves, if they don't know themselves, that's where the best place to start is learning values, learning your boundaries, learning your standards. That way, if a person is coming to you saying this or that, or you're going through a situation, you can always go back to your true values as a person, as an individual, and stand on them. To be like standing on business, stand on your values, your standards, your boundaries, and nobody can take that away from you. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you for that, Jade. Excellent point. If you aren't true to you, other people will mold you. And I take that as like the biggest highlight. You have to be true to you, otherwise other people will mold you. That's what I take from that. And you don't want other people to mold you because they have their own ideas and perceptions about what your life should look like, even though they have no idea what your life requires. They're looking at a snapshot in time. They're looking at their expectations, ideas, and experiences and want to associate them with you. And this is why, as confident and effective communicators, we have to be careful not to try to force our opinions on other people either. We have to be able to embrace, respect, and acknowledge other people's right to think the way they think, feel the way that they feel, and not try to tell them what life is supposed to be for them because we don't know. And we aren't going to pay for it either. So we shouldn't be doing that. We provide ideas, we share perspectives, and we take the time to understand. And I really just, I've never heard anyone say anything remotely close to what Hoops said, to be that thoughtful and considerate about people that he's interacting with, that at 6'9", he understands the physical impact that standing close to someone can have on them. And he's mindful or thoughtful enough to stand back enough so that they don't have to look up at him and strain their neck while they're trying to have a conversation. And and things like that say a lot about people. And those are the types of things that I pay attention to. Those are things that I listen for, those types of behaviors. Those are the types of attitudes that are important to me when I figure out who are the types of people that I would spend time with. It's the ones that are considerate of others. That's important for me. I need people that are considerate of others, no matter how much money they have, no matter what they can do for me. I'm not going to commit any significant time if they don't care about other people. I don't need you to be nice to me and then go be nasty to the next person. Because at that point, I've realized that when you don't get what you want from me, you're going to be nasty to me as well. So those are details that we have to pay attention to and recognize as we're being true to ourselves, and that solid foundation of belief. It helps us recognize not only in ourselves, but we also understand what we are looking to see in other people that we may choose to spend our time with. And before we go to Danesh, I see Mama B's hand. Go ahead, Mama B.
Yes, it's just going to be quick, just some nuggets that I heard here. And Jade and of course, Tim resonated with the same thing about know your values, otherwise the world will mold you. Yes, the world will mold you if you don't know your values. So I also wrote what someone said before, well, not in the space, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And then, Tim, you said something and it made me write this. Don't make your testimony the template for other people. When you said, we try to influence other people so much. And so I wrote that. Don't make your testimony other people's template. I'm done.
I like that. And while our testimonies can be inspiration, they won't necessarily be the template, because everyone's journey is going to be different. There may be some similarities. There may be some resources that we can all use together, but we may use them differently. And yeah, I love that, Mama B. So let's go over to, this came to mind too. When you said about Jade's point about others molding you, as you said that, Mama B, in my mind, I imagine the cheese getting mold on it. Others will mold you in the sense that they will make you go bad. They will make you undesirable because they mold you, not just shaping you, but they mold you if we don't stay true to ourselves. And what do we do whenever we come across mold, especially in our environments? We try to get rid of it. So don't allow other people to mold you because you aren't willing to be true to yourself. So I love this. These conversations, they open up different thought processes and ideas that we get to walk away with, fresh perspectives. Danash. Oh, go ahead, Mama B.
That's a tweetable right there. So give me the words. What you just said about mold and mold. Know your values, otherwise the world will mold you and mold you like cheese.
Yes. Something like that. I would have to go back and listen to it and see.
That's fine. I'm going to write it. I have it. I'll write it. It's the tweetable, folks. Let's tweet it all out.
Danash, great to see you, sir. Welcome to the space. How are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. First of all, it resonates me a lot what you're talking about, and team, a little bit. I hate you a little bit for always speaking before me and telling what I wanted to say. So you of course you're the host of this space. You come first, but please, it's my thoughts. Don't say them. Okay. So first of all, I liked the thing about cars because I'm about to buy a smaller car. I was people pleasing kind of because I was carrying girls around Europe, and they had big suitcases, and I always bought a big car for them to fit in, and I no longer have to do this. So I can be me. I can be just a smaller version of the same person with only one person to be carried by the car. And also another thing, I loved what you said when you said if someone is, oh my god, I have so many notes here. So when someone is nasty to others, that's something I hate too, and I usually judge people by watching how they treat whoever depends on them, because that's a real indicator of their personality. Like it's about children most of the time. Like someone treats their children badly, that's a bad person to me. And yeah, I have a confession to make, and this is about being me, being you. So I never liked my mother's food. I'm sorry. I'm the worst person in the room, I'm sure, because everyone loves mother's food, but I don't, and I never did. And finally, when I grew up, I learned that there's a way to tell her. There's a way to tell. Please, mother, don't think you're doing something good to me, because most of what you do I hate actually, and I'm so sorry. I'm a bad person, but I need to say this. And things changed, and of course she's a mother. Mothers never change that much, so she wants me to eat the food. But yeah, she understands a lot of it. Like I say, no, this is not for me. Okay, I know the rest, and yeah, she accepts it kind of. So being you is something, and there's a phrase. I think Jade said it. It's backing you into a corner. I think there's a phrase, loving you into a corner, and that's what parents do a lot of times. Like they love you into a corner because they love you so much. They expect you. They imagine you somehow. They imagine you being a person that they love, and they almost literally they threaten you by pulling back the love if you're not that person. So that's what I call loving you into a corner, because that means if you're not the person I expect, then sorry, I don't love you anymore. And that's not love. That's something else. Love is when even in the Bible, there's something about love. Love is selfless. It's about accepting you. It's about what you are. I love what you are, not what I expect you to be. And also, just one final thought, because the time is very close. I can feel it. So, if you always live by others' expectations, you are not adding any value. You're just the shadow of their expectations. Don't be the shadow of their expectations. Don't be the shadow of other people's thoughts, other people's preferences, because then you're not a person, you're a copy. You're redundant. And don't be, because you need to put one person in the room. That's you. Here's what I brought. It's me. Hello, guys. It's me. This is me in the room, and I need this place where I stand. That's so. Just let others see you and see your true colors, because that's what they will either love or hate, but accept in a way. So you can not love someone and still accept. And so I just wanted to say I'm sorry, I'm not very organized today because I'm driving and I need to share my focus on things. But yeah, I wanted to say so much, and I know the time is coming, so I'm yielding the mic. But thank you for being here, and thank you for dropping goals.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Daynash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Mama B respond first because I don't want to take her thought just in case she's thinking the same thing I was. Go ahead, Mama B.
I was gonna say that is not a tweetable. That whole "I don't like my mom's cooking" that's not a tweetable. So please don't tweet it out, everybody, for Dana's mom's sake. That was funny. I'm done. You were funny, Dana. You were funny.
I'm such a bad person. I'm sorry for being me, but I am me.
You know what? But it's honest.
No, you are not a bad person because, if you don't know your values, the world will mold you. And so, yeah, you tell the truth. We just don't tweet it out. Thank you.
And maybe because by you telling her the truth, it might lead her to do something differently. She may explore a different way of cooking because mama usually wants her baby to enjoy what she eats. They love to see you get full and see your stomach sticking out after she's made a good meal for you. And if you don't like it, you can take dinner with you when you go so she doesn't have to cook. And that way you don't have to tell her. But I don't think it's a bad thing to share that with her so she knows, because someone else may be suffering as well. And this is a way for the approach to change. You never know. But this is part of all of us being willing to grow. But I understand the dilemma that you felt you were facing, Daynash. Go ahead, Mama B.
No, that was funny when you said because somebody else might be suffering. And that's true. I mean, while that is good to maybe let mama know so she could maybe improve, it depends on how old Dinesh is. Because then if Dinesh is, in his 40s or even 30s, mama is going to be really crushed. Like, you mean all these years I've been burning my fingers on the stove cooking for you? You don't even like my food? So we need to be careful. Depends on how old the mama is too, You don't want to crush her heart.
Very true. And that's part of being a confident and effective communicator, because you know the difference. He's paid attention, he's observed intentionally, and he knows what he says or how he says it could impact her and understands the implications of what he says. So absolutely. But I will say the idea of being loved into a corner, that's I would dare to say profound. I really like that because we allow someone's love to become a weapon, or some people will weaponize their love. And like you said, Daynash, I recall someone telling a group of people that we have to stop taking our love from folks. Stop taking your love from people because you don't get what you want or they don't behave the way that you want them to behave. But being loved into a corner can be a painful thing, very uncomfortable, very stressful, because you're concerned that if you don't behave or give what they are expecting, the love stops. So man, that's a heavy one, Daynash. But also don't be the shadow of someone else's expectations. That's definitely a tweetable, Mama B. Don't be the shadow of someone else's expectations. So Daynash always brings great perspectives when he comes. And as he talked about having a larger vehicle, that's just part of Daynash being who he is. He's one of those kind, caring, considerate individuals that looks out for the needs of others. And I'm sure he's probably helping someone now as he's driving, going to help someone do something or get somewhere, and probably drop off an envelope with some money in it where they think it's a parking ticket. It's actually Daynash showing them some love, putting some money in the envelope. But that's just the kind of guy he is. So be who you are. Be true to you so that we don't allow the world to mold us. We don't want to allow people to mold us. So thank you for that, Daynash. So let's go now over to Ingrid. So we got Ingrid, Barbara, and then Olu, and then Lead.
Hello, Tim. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. How are you today,
Yes,
Ingrid?
because I'm great, thank you. I couldn't hear Olo. I mean, this space today, and I say it all the time, but this one definitely's got to be the best of the best. Not only is it profound, it makes you laugh. This is a space, guys, we need to share, especially around this time. We really do. I mean, nothing is better than being yourself. And right now in this space, we're learning how sometimes we weren't being ourselves, or how we were stuck being loved in the corner, and how we're stuck about food not tasting right. But I mean, the beautiful thing about it is all coming from the heart, right? And Danash, no, you weren't a bad person saying you didn't like your mom's cooking. I was lucky. My mom did cook good, and I learned how to cook from my grandmother too. But a lot of things she overcooked, so I had to teach her how to do that. And when she improved, she said, "I don't know how I used to do that. That was horrible what I used to do before." So there are things that people do learn, and good things come out of it. But the other thing that I loved about the space, I mean, Barbara, the best thing you said, be a better human. If that's how I see myself, to always try to be a better human. I mean, and my mom always taught me, try to find the best in someone. Somebody could be a bad person to other people, but you could find that little something in there that is good, and hopefully that seed could grow them to be a better human. And that's how I conduct my life. I mean, you could I always feel you could be a better human. There's always room to be a better human, because you could have been misguided through life and had really feel like you were unlucky, and always or wanted the easy way out. I mean, there's so many things that could have happened in your life that could have turned your trajectory of how you were supposed to become. And so that's why we need to find the best in everyone. My mom always said, too, may she rest in peace, never be jealous of what anybody has, because you don't know what they did to get it. Okay, so maybe there's certain sacrifices that they did that you wouldn't be willing to do. Maybe they did certain things that you are not willing to do. So if there is something out there that you like, then you stay focused and you get inspired, and then you do it the best way you can for your own values. And being yourself, I wanted to add this. Yes, being myself is being a political junkie. And part of it is also my values and what I'm expecting from someone, and to be true to myself. And when my passion comes, if you guys hear me in spaces, is coming from that, because I want someone in power that is representing my values and the values around the world of most people, not the few. And then I think we could all be better humans. Thank you, Tim, for this wonderful space. Guys, please share it. Please go back and listen, because I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy it. That's going to be while I'm doing work today. That's what I'm doing. Replay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for that. And that reminder and being true to yourself. But you know what, Ingrid, as you mentioned about the cooking as well, this should be a great reminder why it's also important to be true to yourself and to be honest in those moments. Because imagine how things may have changed had Danash spoken up sooner. He may not have had to go through that for all those years of suffering through that, because she may have changed. And it isn't just with the cooking, it's anything that you experience from people because you fail to be true to yourself and be honest about what it is that you need. Because remember, it begins with knowing what you need, doing that self assessment to understand, what do you require to be happy? What do you require to be comfortable? What do you require to feel fulfilled? You have to understand what you need and be willing to share that. And also understanding your limits when it comes to those needs and what it is that you're willing or able to accept as you interact with people. But you have to be true to who you are. And that can change so much, not just for you, but for others, Because how many other people, and I'm going to stop, Daynash. This is the last time I'll say it, but how many other people had to eat the food or may have eaten it that came over as guests to the house? So just think about that. How many people Daynash could have saved or spared from those emotions and feelings that they had? And you aren't the only one, Daynash, but I will say, fortunately, my mother is a pretty good cook, so I didn't have that struggle. And but I appreciate you being honest with her and letting her know. So with that, let's go over to Barbara. So we go to Barbara, Olu. Well, Olu dropped down, so he may have changed his mind. And then Lead, and then Grace. Barbara, what do you have for us?
Oh, thank you, Tim. So yeah, I did look up my name, and my name is, I guess, of Greek origin, and it means foreign woman or stranger. It's derived from the Greek word barbaros, which is used by the ancient Greeks to describe a non-Greek speaking people. Over time, the name has come to symbolize somebody who is unique and exotic. So yeah, totally makes sense, because a lot of things that I think I say people don't get. Like, but if you drill down a little bit further, like down some layers, you'll see what I meant. But I know I'm not trying to be difficult or, make everything's complicated for everybody, but maybe that's just the way the way I communicate or express myself. But yeah, it's that is what it is, and I have grown to embrace my weirdness, and how others are not going to necessarily get me, which is totally fine. I don't need to be loved by every human. I'm just reaching the people that have real hearts. They can see where I'm coming from, and maybe that was by design. I also wanted to say to Dinesh, I really appreciate his honesty, because I think it's through honesty that people can learn to grow and change. And honesty sometimes is very painful, but if you distill that down, it equals love. Removing love from a situation is very manipulative and hurtful. And I totally agree. I've lived some life. I've experienced that in various relationships. I've seen that with others. I have someone real close to me in my immediate family who raised their child in that way, and it's very damaging. So I totally agree with you. Manipulative love used as a weapon is never good. It's not, I think what they're doing is they're trying to get you to love them, but they're doing it in a maladaptive way that is the opposite. And, we're all here to learn lessons. I'm not going to judge anybody. We have different perspectives. Hello, even the meaning of my name is a way different perspective than what most would think. I was actually ashamed of knowing that. I learned that years ago, that my name meant stranger. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that means I need to be okay with being an introvert and being, not really in the center of attention of I don't need that. I do not need that at all. Actually, I'd rather just be a wallflower. But for some reason, I end up not being a wallflower, which is another kind of like, I don't know if that's just the, goodness, there's a word for this. It's, irony of my name, is that I don't find myself that, in a strange land among strange people. I see everybody as a part of myself. I actually learn from every person in this room, and I cherish it. I cherish seeing the wisdom in others and the light of God that I know we all are. And with that, I'll just mic up and say thank you for being your true, honest, authentic selves, because you being that is what inspires others to also step up to that level and become their true, authentic selves. So with that, I'll mic up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for that, Barbara. And the one thing that you know what, I'm not going to say it. I wrote it down. So I'm going to go to Mama B, and you mentioned Daynash's name, so then we'll let Daynash respond in case he wants to say something to you. Mama B, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick about the names. I'm just wondering if the people who named you, whatever name it is, did not know the meaning of the name. So does that name then carry much weight? For instance, if the meaning of your name is a negative one, right? But if your parents did not know the meaning of the name that they named you, it just sounded like the name they like because it sounds that way. They clearly did not load that name with the meaning that's negative, right? So does that affect you in any way? Just a thought. I'm done.
You know, that's a really good question, Mama B, because I believe my father named me because during that time, there was a song called Barbara Ann that was, kind of popular. And I believe I was named after that song. But, and one of my other sisters was named Virginia. Unfortunately, she was stillborn, but she was the name of a street. So in our city. So honestly, I don't know that he actually researched the names back then. I would agree with you. I think there's a little bit of that. Just, bingo, here it is. Here's a name, and I like it, and so I'm going to name my child that. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I think even I mentioned that it's something that can be interesting to see, but know that it doesn't always mean that's who you are. But for a lot of people, you can see that there's a correlation in what a definition may be, what may be listed. Because keep in mind that definitions will change. There are some words that I have seen change in recent years that meant one thing 10 years ago, but as of 3 or 4 years ago, they have a different meaning. Because depending on what that word is, some people will change what it means to have because there's specific intention behind it. But when you look at it, for those of you who see that it does align with your character and the way that you live your life, that's great. It's awesome. And it's exciting to see that. But then at the same time, if it doesn't, that means you now have an opportunity to do something different. That may be motivation and inspiration to not be a representative of what that definition says about that particular name. And most times, a lot of parents, I would dare to say, they take a little time thinking about names. Not all of them. Sometimes they may do it while they're drinking wine and champagne and they just pick a name. But I think the majority of them probably give some type of thought, and there's something that inspired them to give the names that they give to their children. In most cases, I would dare to say. I haven't done the research on that, but the parents that I know, they usually have taken a little bit of time because it means something to them on some level. But go ahead, Danash. Yes, go ahead, Danash.
Sorry, just very briefly, because I know others are waiting. Sorry from the others. So, Barbara, you are the right kind of introvert, even if you call yourself an introvert, and stop calling yourself names like you're not weird, you're not a bad person. You reacted on the feelings, you pinpointed them, you knew everything, you knew the whole emotional layer of what we mentioned in this topic, and you reacted on them. Please, world, give us more introverts like you and less of the people pleasers, less of the loud people. Okay, so this is a good thing. Please don't hurt yourself. This is a good thing. What you are is a good person, and no matter the name, please find another meaning for the name. Maybe we go with exotic or what you mentioned, but no, you're not strange. You're not weird. Okay. So next time you call yourself that, I'll be here to punish you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dinesh. That's so sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mama B?
Yes, it's going to be a quick one. I actually also believe that we pour meaning into our names. So, however we live, we pour meaning into that name. I'll just say a little story. My name, I have a middle name, and it's an English name. And the only reason I have that name is because in South Africa, African names were being stripped from us because they were not English names. So my mom then ended up giving me an English name, and it was not in my birth certificate because that's not the name they wanted to give me. But anyway, so that's the name that I used in school and all. So when I started to try to reclaim my African name, Mabatu, I was left now with all these official documents with my English name. And so I didn't know, what do I do now, And so then I finally realized, and I was in my 30s at this point, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use this English name and strip it of that old definition as a slave's name. And because I poured meaning into that name with my 30-something years of life. And so that is what I believe, that we pour meaning into our names. We give our names meaning. I'm done speaking.
We absolutely can. And there are cases where some people have names and those names are defined based on someone's character. When you look back to see how some of those things were derived, there's usually an association, and someone will say, okay, well, let's call it this because this is what it represents based on the way you live. But I would also, so what Danesh said, I'm glad I waited and let Danesh share what he was going to share, because I did have a note about the uniqueness, about the weirdness that you mentioned, Barbara. It isn't weird, it's unique. And sometimes your thought process exceeds what other people have the capacity to perceive. So sometimes we're ahead of our time. And I'm being serious because I find myself and have found myself in a number of situations where I share thoughts and ideas, and everyone is just like, wait a minute, no. They don't get it because they can't see and perceive the same way that you do. And there's a lot of you in here, a number of you in here, I'm sure, that go through the same thing. No one ever understands what you're saying. And stranger isn't a bad thing. It's someone who does not know or someone isn't familiar with. So they aren't familiar with your thought process. They can't see what you see. So use that as a way to provide new and fresh perspectives for other people to consider. And what I tend to do is I ask questions. Have you considered this? What do you think about this as a possibility, without them having to feel a need to fight or just absolutely resist what I'm doing or what I'm saying? Because that absolutely happens. Sometimes your thought process is just so far ahead of other people that they can't perceive the things that come to mind for you. So own it. Don't be afraid of that. They put agitators in washing machines. They put the little rod inside of sifters. Things have to be agitated sometimes in order to get the best results. And you may be that agitator that environments and people need from time to time. So be true to you. Agitate, but we can do it the right way. We do it the right way, which I know that you do. I'm confident that you do. I'll say that because I don't know. It's like people saying they know their kids wouldn't do something when you don't know what those kids are doing when you aren't around, but you have confidence that they're doing the right things, and we're at least hopeful. But I believe that you agitate the right way, Barbara. So keep doing that. And what we'll do is we're going to go to Olu, Lead, then we're going to Grace, and then we're going to go to Ingrid. And then after that, we're going to let Billo explain to us which one of those options at the top there in that pinned post are not true about Billo. So let's go now over to Olu. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll make it as quick as I can. I just wanted to quickly circle back to Hoops, even though he's no longer here. First, I would say, Danesh, you're definitely not a bad person. Not at all. But what you brought up, I think it's a good learning curve. And that's why I want to take it back to Hoops and say that in being true to ourselves, we also need to be mindful that we owe nothing but love to everyone around us, even when we're true to ourselves. We need to remember that where my freedom stops is where someone else's freedom starts. And it's very important, especially when it comes to mothers. Maybe that's why I am particularly speaking about this, because the sacrifice and the selflessness of mothers is inquantifiable to the extent that they epitomize what unconditional love is. And so, to that extent, I feel even when they do things that we don't like, sometimes we learn to just stomach it and to just take it in love and to just keep it moving just because of love. And it's not that we are betraying ourselves or betraying um, who we are, but it's just for the sake of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Olu. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I will add to that, Olu. And the reason I add to that is there comes a time, because we will try to figure out how do we bear with something, especially when it's uncomfortable or when it's challenging and it presents this internal struggle with people that we love and care about, knowing that the parents have probably sacrificed a great deal to help get where we are at this point in our lives. But I think that we also, when we think about being true to ourselves, sometimes that trueness to ourselves does mean being honest with them in spite of the sacrifices that they made, because sometimes the things they do that affect us negatively, they may not realize they're doing it or realize the effect that it's actually having on us. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to them to let them know the impact that it's having, so that they at least have an opportunity to do it differently, so that no one continues to suffer or have to struggle or feel like you're being loved into a corner in those instances. And as family, like we said, one of the potential reasons people aren't true to themselves is those family expectations that some of us may feel. And I think there's been a lot of times where we just kind of go with the flow because it's family, because it's the parent. And I think in order to do it a better way, we have to have that honesty so that there's at least the opportunity to do it better. Because if you have to suffer through something simply because of who someone is in your life, that means you aren't living a fulfilled life. You're struggling and suffering in life. And it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. And no matter what someone has done for us, they don't get to compromise our well-being because of their role and position. And I know that isn't what you're saying that they should be able to do as the mother, but I wanted people, just in case someone took it to be that, I wanted to make sure that was clear, that you understand that being true to yourself, yes, you're willing to accept some things, but there comes a point, depending on how it affects you, because people will do things that, someone could come in here and call me stupid, a little clown, and I'm not affected by that. I don't have to say anything to them. They can say that and I can move on. But if it's someone that I care about, that I trust, if they say something that's hurtful to me, I owe it to myself to let them know. And I owe it to them to let them know, because if I don't let them know, the relationship will potentially be ended, because I won't continue to let them call me stupid and a clown, So I just wanted to make sure everyone had that full scope of that, and to make sure you see it from, understand both perspectives of that as well. So thank you for adding that, Olu. But we owe nothing but love. I love that. We owe nothing but love. That's the only thing we owe people, is to love them. And that doesn't mean that you have to be friends to love someone. We owe nothing but love to people. So let's go now over to Lead. Lead, how are you, sir? Great to see you.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Peace to the space. Peace to the co-host. Let me just say that first and foremost. Man, what a dope topic on a dope stage. Are you being true to you? For me, importance that, there's an importance on guidance, right? Parental guidance, mentally guidance, universal guidance. All of these types of guidance, they help me understand, man, that it's a journey to self-acceptance. You know what I mean? So that I can grow into and be my true self, right? Because sometimes in this world, it can be super duper scary and terrifying just to be somebody as simple as whoever you see in the mirror. It's funny, you guys were discussing names and how that affects who we are in the world. My name is Arabic for it means the student. I mean the intelligent. It means the intelligent, and so keeping in mind, right, Mama B, keeping that in mind, I try to always demonstrate that in every aspect of my being. I would be the first to admit that I am a man who who contains the light and the dark. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But I always strive to be in alignment with the light as much as possible. I try to stay in my divinity and be as right and exact and as scientific, excuse me, and mathematical as I possibly can. Mr. Brown, I have to say, man, I appreciate you allowing me to speak on your stage. Your stage is truly like the Broadway of X. The bright lights are always on. We want to always come in here and make sure that we bring positivity so that the world of X can remember that we contribute to something of value. So listen, peace and love to everybody, and always lead with logic.
Absolutely. Thank you for that lead. Thank you, sir. And, you know, another example too, how the way his name was defined, it is a part of what he tries to do, the way he tries to live and represent himself. And just keep in mind, everyone, your reputation is a reflection of your presentation. And we get to choose what people say. We can influence what people say. I'll say it that way. Because if you don't like what they say, you may have to change what you do. And people speak based on what they see you doing or what they hear you're saying in most cases. And if someone says something outside of what you're doing or what you've said, then you know that's the version of ignorance, antagonism, jealousy, or hate that you're dealing with in those moments. And you have to be able to discern and disregard those individuals and not allow them to cause you to stop being who you are, because you know, based on your foundational belief, that what you're doing, you're trying to make sure you provide love, as Olu said, because all we owe is love. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to go to Grace and then Ingrid. And then after that, it's 1:23. So we're going to see if we can't squeeze this in 7 minutes. We're going to try. And I didn't announce it earlier, so that's on me that I didn't bring it up sooner. But I have started posting it, so we're working on that 1:30, and we'll get as close as we can today. So I take the blame for not facilitating that properly and communicating that thought to everyone today. So we're going to go ahead and go over to Grace. Grace, yes, ma'am. Let's see. Grace's picture is playing Ring Around the Rosie on the screen. Grace, can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you now. It's been a little challenging today, my tech issues. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. I love that last speaker. What a great voice. What a great baritone. I have, wow, so many thoughts going on in my head. First of all, Barbara, dear Barbara, change our story, change our life. I see an amazing story over you because I was also, believe it or not, very introverted the first 18 years of my life, and wanted to be the storyteller. So what we want, what we focus on, if we want to be that change maker, which you are, because of all those years of listening. So you have a deep well, and guess who called himself a stranger? Jesus said, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me water, and I was a stranger and you welcomed me. You get to be Jesus in disguise. We all get to. So if we know what our values are, we know what we value and what we want to be, who we want to be, who are we becoming? And we have to have that. We have to know that. And the sooner we get that vision, the sooner we can start practicing that and becoming that. So who are we becoming? Somebody gave me the pen name Grace, but my real name is Hebrew, and it means root. It also means compassionate friend. But people don't know that name, when I say my name, which I'm not going to tell you, some of you know it, I want you to read the book, the 8th book of the Bible. And when I was in California, hardly anybody knew that. They're like, number 8, is it Mary? Is it Elizabeth? They guessed all these things, but they would mostly guess Grace. So when I got the websites that somebody put together for me when they saw me working with homeless people who often have a code name because they wanted to leave their past. They didn't like their past. They didn't like their name. They didn't like who they are. And it just takes one person to say, I see you, I value, I see the nobleness in you. And we can be that person. And Barbara, you're that person. Tim, you're that person. Brenda, Mama B, we can, Lukioti, I love you. I love your name because Luke's in it, bearer of light and knowledge. Lukioti is one of my dearest. We just became friends a month ago. I think it was through this space, I'm not sure. And I can't wait to hug him and his wife because
I think her connection may have broken. Yes, okay, I see Barbara's emoji.
Yeah, we lost her.
Okay. So thank you for that, Grace. And Root, things are growing from Grace, and she's doing great things, bearing fruit. So let's go over now to Ingrid, and then we're going to see what that answer is for Billo.
First, I also wanted to add about the Ingrid. I mean, the Ingrid, that name came from Ingrid Bergman, both my grandmother and my aunt. So I got that name from that. But in Venezuela, it was not a common name whatsoever. I didn't have the Spanish name. I should have been called Michelle or Miguelina, but they chose Ingrid. And Ingrid means fertility. And I only have one child, but I do have a green thumb. Anytime I handle a tree or plant, it grows very well. And the other part of my name, which I thought was kind of cool, beautiful and goddess, and it's like I just found that out too. I thought Ingrid meant daughter. It was in one of my world encyclopedia when I was a kid. Didn't know what it, and I never followed through. And then now seeing that was kind of nice. I also sent a DM to Barbara. I told her she is the stranger you want to meet. So that's the positive part of being a stranger. So you walk into the room, yes, you are the stranger, but it's that stranger that you want to meet. So always put that right foot forward and love it all. But that's how I felt when I heard you saying the strange part. But no, stranger that you want to meet, Barbara. Okay? Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ingrid. And yes, and fertility, it doesn't necessarily have to be about how many children you have. That productiveness, fruitfulness, you can bear fruit in people's minds because you have a message that you get to share, and there's fertile ground in people's hearts because the message that you and anyone else in this space can carry that can bear fruit in other people's lives. And this goes back to us being true to ourselves so that we're able to bear those fruit. Because remember, it isn't always just for us. The things that we do, the things we say, they don't just impact our lives personally. They can impact all the lives of the people who know us, who live with us, who work with us, who go to school with us, who hear the things that we say in other spaces. So we are fertile. We're bearing fruit in different ways. So thank you for that, Ingrid. And I'll say, Timothy, that is who I am. If you want to know who I am, you look at the definition of Timothy, and you can read the books of the Bible, Timothy, and get a very good sense of who I am and what I represent in my life. And I could only hope and pray. Well, I'm comfortable that I reflect that. And sometimes people may misunderstand. And this is why confident and effective communication is so important, where we're open to get feedback from people. Because while in my mind, I believe that I'm reflecting the things that I read in my Bible, I could be missing the mark sometimes. And I may do something or say something that may not be in alignment, but in my head, I think it is. But the way I present it doesn't come across that way. And it isn't always what we say. Sometimes it's how we say it that may be offensive. And we have to be able to realize that and remember that it's okay if people come to us and say, hey, you know what? That hurt my feelings, even though you did not have bad intentions, but it just could have happened that way based on what they were feeling in that moment. So thank you, Ingrid, for sharing that. So now, Billo, let's go to Billo. So what we have at the top of the space, we've got 3 statements about Billo, three points. One point is 20 years living in a refugee camp. The second point is providing for a huge family. And the third one, which it appears everyone, well, not everyone, but 74% of people believe this is not true, is that you're indifferent to most things. So, Billo, we will let you come up, say hello to everyone, and tell us which one is true. And if there's something you want to share about the others, you can.
Hello everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing fine. I'm happy to be here today. In fact, I just want to say a shout out to Lazolia, my friend. It's really been a very long time. Welcome back. Yes, Tim, you put me on the spot today, and I'm going to share about myself because I haven't shared anything. Yes, there are 2 things points that are very true here. The first one is 20 years in the camp. Well, 20 years in the camp. My name is Billo Kwol. I chose the name Billo because it has a meaning that it's something that rises, either in form of stream. And I believe that I am going to rise, and I perceive myself as a stream, meaning I'm going to expand in some way. I live in Kenya. We came here to 24 years ago, to be specific, in 2000. My mother brought me here. And we have been living in Kenya as a result of war as refugees in Kenya, in a place called Kakuma, for those years. So Kakuma is basically a home for me. This is where I live with my family. I'm blessed I have siblings. We're in a family of 8 siblings. And then I also have a wife, blessed with 2 kids. I'm also living with my brother's wife and also my sister who is married. And these are the people that I'm taking care of. The good thing is I'm the firstborn in the family. And the good thing is I'm fortunate enough to be the person that has graduated in the entire family. I can even say maybe the entire lineage of my lineage. So it's something that have been really working on. It seems like a kind of not a blessing, but I call it a blessing to take care of such a very huge family, because the thing is, it has really opened my mind. It has, like, there is this saying that I look at that I heard from the movie Peter Parker, that says, with great power comes great responsibility. But for me, I usually reverted that to say that with great responsibility comes great power. And that is what I've really been doing, because the responsibility I'm in here has really helped me, and it has given me power that I can be able to conquer everything that I've set my heart on. So that is about me, the first one of 20 years in the refugee camp. To be exact, it is 24. Also the provider for a huge family, which is very true. The family that I'm providing for now, it's a family of 15 individuals. And we in Africa, I'm going to say that we in Africa, we believe we live in like a kind of a communist, where someone that is strong can provide for everybody until they also become strong. And that is what we usually do, especially for the Dinka people in South Sudan. That is what we usually do. And we have been raised that way. So it is an opportunity for me to do that. And I'm not complaining about the indifferent. Yes, it is wrong. I don't believe I'm indifferent, because if I look at what I'm doing, like I came today very late because I was engaging a group of our colleagues, about 5, that I was leading on Sustainable Development Goal 16, that is about peace, justice, and strong institutions, where we were sensitizing the youth in the camp on leadership, governance, and how they can be able to talk about issues concerning corruption. So that is the reason as why today was a very busy day for me. So that is basically a tip of what Qual is and what Below Qual is. So thank you, team, for bringing me to this point that I have to talk about myself. And those are the things about me. I've lived in Kenya, a refugee camp. As now I'm also living here. It has become home for me. Yeah, so that is me. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you for sharing that, Billow. Absolutely, sir. And I did not let Billow know today that I was going to post that, but I already had the information, so I knew the answers. But thank you for sharing that, Billow, with everyone and embracing the moment, because sometimes you don't have time to prepare. You don't necessarily know what's going to be happening or what's coming. And this is why we stress the importance of getting comfortable being uncomfortable, learning to think on your feet, developing the ability to be concise in your communication, and utilizing the 4 Ps, because it makes it a little bit more interesting when people do listen to the things you have to say. So thank you again, Billow. And what I'll do is, before we go, I want to see if Brenda, you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Thank you so much, Tam, for giving me this honor. I really appreciate you seeing me, and I want you to know that I love you. And I really appreciate this room. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And it was a great day. And I want you all to know that I just put my dishes in the dishwasher. I had a breakdown earlier in the week, and somebody was speaking with me over the phone. And I thought of that person as I was in this space. That person said, I get so much work done. And I thought of that person and I thought, get up and get those dishes done. So these spaces are definitely changing my life, and it starts mentally. So thank you again, Tam, and nice to fly by your side, Mama B. Everybody have a great rest of the day, and blessings to you all.
Nice. So what I will say is, what Brenda just did is give us the balance. Mama B said, don't let my face be the reason you make a decision. Don't let my face be in your decision. But sometimes it is people's faces that influence the things that we do. It's important to always have balance. We have to maintain balance. We should avoid all extremes, and don't be afraid to benchmark based on other things that we may have seen other people do. We aren't comparing ourselves to other people, but it's okay to benchmark. I may see something that Olu does and I like it. And I'm like, you know what? How can I incorporate that into what I do and still be Tim? That's okay. And sometimes, to Brenda's point, she was reminded of something someone said in the space, and that encouraged her to get up and get something done. And she wasn't chasing glory, she wasn't chasing any approval, but it was a moment of inspiration that moved her to do something differently, which also further iterates and should impress upon you the importance of sharing your thoughts. Because from a conversation last week or the week before, it still impacted Brenda this week, days after the space had ended. So we never know how our words are going to impact someone's life, especially when we're speaking with good intentions. So be true to you. Don't be afraid to be who you are and share the things that you need to say, because you could potentially literally save someone's life in multiple ways. So thank you, Brenda. Mama B, any final thoughts?
Yes, Brenda, my love, nice to fly with you. That is for sure. And we are grateful to be the backdrop to your dishwashing. So we were happy to do that. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of everybody. But anyway, Tim, what a space. Oh, so beautiful. I tell you, every time we come here, remember when you had a space a few months ago and you said we should embrace embrace your sauce, SSAUCE, all the gravy that comes along with you, all the spice that life has added to you. Just embrace it all, because it is your sauce that is the key to your success, because no one is like you. So today you said your reputation is the representation of your, oh, I think I'm killing that one. I think I was wrong. Something that your reputation is the representation of your presentation.
Yes, reputation is a
I knew
reflection
it.
of
Go
your
ahead.
presentation.
Thank you. Your reputation is the reflection of your presentation. Thank you. I'm gonna get that right one of these days. And then Lead said, "You are the light, like you are the light of Broadway." Yes. So this space, Confident Speaking community, we are the light of Broadway. And I always say that as we do these spaces on these Twitters, we are lighting the candle. So yes, Lead, thank you. We are lighting the candle. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for blessing us and bringing your sauce into the room. And we are better for it. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mama B. Always great to have you all up here with us, and everyone that comes up to speak, to add the additional encouragement, the feedback that we all get to provide with one another, because it makes a difference. And to Olu's point, that's why that community is so important. We need people in our lives. We don't necessarily need people to do everything that's required in life, but we need people to provide that encouragement from time to time. We won't always feel our best. There are going to be days that you don't feel your best. I don't care how holy you may feel you are, or how committed you maybe are to your values and your beliefs. As humans, we will have days that we don't feel our best, and we need someone to tell us it's okay, to remind us that, hey, tap into your strength. Remember the foundation of your belief, or get into your word. And it's necessary sometimes. So we can't fool ourselves with that. So I appreciate all of you being here. And I want to thank Hero X Community for being here. Jessica, great to see you. And I don't know what the timing is on the conversation, but I know you shared with us last week or the week before, but I hope you're seeing some progress on that front. And Loanne, good to see you. And I know it's super late for Loanne. I appreciate you being here. Great to see you. Stephanie, great to see you. Lucia, Rookie, Jules, Abubakar, Brock, Julie, Tuminho, Jane, I Am Lotus, Yi, All About Music, William, Ayodele, Bobby Skinnies, Anna, and Vicky. So great to have all of you here. Appreciate your presence. And I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged all of you that are listening in that I didn't get a chance to thank personally, because I absolutely appreciate your presence as well, because you being here helps reinforce the fact that what we're doing is valuable and that it's important. And even if you don't actually come up and speak, you still